The Mummers Parade is held each New Year's Day in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. It is believed to be the oldest folk festival in the United States. Local clubs compete in one of 4 categories. They prepare elaborate costumes and movable scenery, which take months to complete. This is done in clubhouses, many of which are on or near 2nd Street in the Pennsport neighborhood of the city's South Philadelphia section, which also serve as social gathering places for members. Numerous Irish and Italian immigrants once populated South Philadelphia, forming the Mummers and parade goers. As these groups have begun to be replaced by Asian and Hispanic immigrants, local ties to the parade have weakened. The parade has been broadcast since 1993 on WPHL-TV, which has live-streamed the event on its website since 2011. After a national campaign to get the parade nationally televised, an edited 2-hour broadcast of the parade was picked up by WGN America and WGN-TV. The broadcast debuted January 3, 2009. History. The parade traces back to mid-17th century roots, blending elements from Swedish, Finnish, Irish, English, German, and other European heritages, as well as African heritage. The parade is related to the Mummers play tradition from England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Revivals of this tradition are still celebrated annually in South Gloucestershire, England on Boxing Day, along with other locations in England and in parts of Ireland on St. Stephen's Day, and also in the Canadian province of Newfoundland and Labrador around Christmas. Swedes and Finns, the first European colonists in the Philadelphia area, brought the custom of visiting neighbors on second day Christmas with them to Tinnicum. This was soon extended through New Year's Day, with costumed celebrants loudly parading through the city. They appointed a speech director who performed a special dance with a traditional rhyme. The Mummers derived the name from the Mummers plays performed in Philadelphia in the 18th century as part of a wide variety of working-class street celebrations around Christmas. By the early 19th century, these coalesced with earlier Swedish customs, including the Christmas neighbor visits and possibly shooting firearms on New Year's Day, as well as the Pennsylvania German custom of bells nickeling, where adults in disguise question children about the behavior during the previous year. U.S. President George Washington carried on the official custom of New Year's Day calls during the 7 years he occupied President's House in Philadelphia. The Mummers continued the traditions of comic verse in exchange for cakes and ale. Small groups of up to 20 mummers, the faces blackened, went door to door shooting and shouting, and adapting the English Mummers play by replacing the character of King George with that of General Washington. Through the 19th century, large groups of disguised working-class young men roamed the streets on New Year's Day, organizing riotous processions, firing weapons into the air and demanding free drinks in taverns, and generally challenging middle and upper-class notions of order and decorum. An 1808 law decreed that masquerades and masquerade halls were common nuisances, and that anyone participating would be subject to a fine and imprisonment. It was apparently never successfully enforced and was repealed in 1859. Henry Muhlenberg, writing in 1839, reported, "Men met on the roads in Tinnicum and King's Essing, who were disguised as clowns, shouting at the top of their voices and shooting guns." Unable to suppress the custom, by the 1880s the city government began to pursue a policy of co-option, requiring participants to join organized groups with designated leaders who had to apply for permits and were responsible for the group's actions. The earliest documented club, the Chain Gang, had formed in 1840, and Golden Crown first marched in 1876, with crosstown rivals Silver Crown forming soon after. By 1881, a local report report said parties of paraders made the street almost like a masked ball. By 1900, these groups formed part of an organized, city-sanctioned parade with cash prizes for the best performances. Southern plantation life's contributions include the parade's theme song, James A. Bland's "Oh, Dem Golden Slippers," as well as the 19th-century cakewalk, dubbed the Mama's Strut, or the Two-Street Strut. Other ethnic groups have been integrated into the parade through the years. Italians began to participate in large numbers after World War II. The first official parade was held January 1, 1901. The first string band, Trilby, was organized in 1898, first paraded in 1902, and last paraded in 1924. In the early years of the official parade, the makeshift costumes of most celebrants were gradually replaced by more elaborate outfits funded by associations' fundraising efforts. As they assimilated to Philadelphia, many immigrant groups have joined the tradition. For example, Italian Americans began to participate in large numbers after World War II. While almost all parade participants are currently white, African American mamas existed in the past. The All-African American Golden Eagle Club, formed in 1866, had 300 members in the 1906 parade. For example, judges systematically discriminated against black clubs, however, and the Octavius Catto Club, withdrew after receiving last place in the 1929 parade. The brass bands hired to accompany the comic brigades often include black musicians, but do not dress in costume and consider themselves session musicians rather than mamas. By 1964, only one African-American mama, Willis Flueling, remained. As of 2007, a few of the less traditional clubs, such as Spiral Q puppet theaters, West Philadelphia Mamas Brigade, were integrated. The comic, wenches, and other female roles in most skits are typically performed by men in drag. Women were not officially allowed in the parade until the 1970s. Budget problems. As of 2008, the parade cost the city over $1 million each year, including $750,000 for police and parade services and $360,000 in prize money. The 2008 budget crisis led the city to propose closing numerous libraries and firehouses and the scaling back of expenditures for the parade, offering $300,000 for the 2009 parade and nothing for 2010. After the end of city funding for the parade, the Mamas created the Save the Mamas Fund to help cover the additional city fees to paying expenses for police and sanitation services during the event. Funding for the parade during the first decade of the 2000s was provided for several years by Southwest Airlines, which also took naming rights of the parade, which was called Southwest Airlines Mamas Parade. Funding for the 2012 parade was provided by Sugar House Casino, which renamed the parade to Sugar House Mamas Parade. Quote, in September 2009, the Bacon Brothers musical duo recorded a special version of the song, New Year's Day, with members of the All-Star String Band. Proceeds from the sale of the CD went to the Save the Mamas Fund. Additionally, the duo performed a benefit concert for the parade in December 2009. Location, time and route. The parade traveled northward on Broad Street in Philadelphia for decades until the 1995 parade, when the parade was moved to Market Street due to construction work on Broad Street. After construction was completed, the parade returned to Broad Street from 1996 to 1999. For various reasons, the parade was moved again to Market Street in 2000. In 2004, the parade was moved back to Broad Street. In 1997, the Fancy Brigades were moved to the Pennsylvania Convention Center, allowing for larger sets, but limiting audience size. In 2011, the Fancy Brigades returned to the parade. Each year, thousands of people participate in the parade, many wearing elaborate costumes costing tens of thousands of dollars to make and weighing well over 100 pounds. $395,000 in prizes is awarded to the various winners. The costs for making the outfits plus fees to choreographers and prop designers often far exceed the prizes available, while club fundraisers, hall rentals and bank loans often cover much of the expense. Individual members frequently spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money to raise funds. Many string bands and the members seek paying gigs, particularly in area 4th of July parades, the annual show of shows, weddings and other events. Many clubs hold beef and beers or 50/50ths raffles. Most charge annual dues for membership. As of 2008, the parade began at 9 a.m. and ended sometime before 8 p.m. Fancy Brigades performed at the nearby convention center at noon and, in a second, judged show at 5 p.m. An individual mama strut, a weaving, comical dance, walk with pumping arms held out to the side, may last 2 or 3 hours from South Philadelphia to City Hall. The whole parade, at close to 11 hours, may have been the longest parade in the U.S. due to budget cuts. The 2009 parade was shorter, scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. and last 6.5 hours. Incidents of foul weather have delayed the parade on occasions by several hours, including 2008. On January 1, 2015, the Mummers will begin the parade route at Philadelphia's City Hall and head south along Broad Street to Washington Avenue. The Mummers will use the Benjamin Franklin Parkway as a staging area prior to moving to City Hall to be judged. After the judging, the Mummers will join the parade heading south on Broad Street. The parade would end at Washington Avenue, with some clubs still heading east to 2nd Street for the unofficial 2-street parade. If an all-day postponement is required for foul weather, the parade is usually held the following Saturday, as the expensive and fancy costumes are easily harmed by precipitation or high winds. Each year, there is a festival leading up to the parade called Mummers Fest. It allows fans to tour the Pennsylvania Convention Center to watch the Fancy Brigades build the props and practice for the New Year's Day reveal. 2nd Street. Because of the large number of clubhouses there, South 2nd Street often serves as a party location after the parade, with the epicenter being South 2nd Street and Mifflin Street. Local residents and others in the area for the parade crowd the local bars, clubhouses and sidewalks, sometimes joining in the unofficial parade. With the parade they spent months preparing for. The Mummers let loose and celebrate. This multi-block party continues well into the night or early morning, with some Mummers not sleeping for 24 hours straight. In 2009, the city declined to pay for any post-parade celebrations on 2 Street. However, Wahida Bob Brady helped secure funding for the event in the final hours. Blackface. The wearing of blackface carried over from minstrel shows in the early 20th century. Growing dissent from civil rights groups and the offense of the black community led to most clubs phasing out blackface in the early 1960s. A 1964 city policy officially banned blackface, but some groups have continued to wear blackface into the 21st century over growing protests. Divisions. Comics. Comics are clowns, many of them well-liquid, in colorful outfits, often with multi-level umbrellas who dance to recordings such as Golden Slippers. The comics typically start the parade. Themes often gently parody current events and traditional life. Prizes are awarded for floats, groups, brigades, couples, original costume, original character, and juvenile. The comic clubs are Good Timers, Landy, Liberty, and Murray. Wench brigades, an offshoot of comics, pride themselves on continuing traditions such as the dress and bloomers, suits, painted faces, decorated umbrellas, and live brass bands to accompany the brigade. Wench brigades include Bryson, Cara Liam, Frogwick, O'Malley, Oregon, Pirates, Riverfront, Saints, Americans, and Mollywhoppers. Fancies. The Fancy Division is made up of 4 mother clubs: Adelphia, Golden Sunrise, Hog Island, and Oregon. Members with some small floats strut in elaborate costumes to music provided by a live band. Prizes are awarded to individuals, trios, juveniles, and captains. String bands provide elaborate performances, limited to unamplified strings, reeds, and percussion. String bands feature banjos, saxophones, accordions, double basses, drums, glockenspiels, and violins in musical arrangements tied to a theme presented by the captain. Beautiful costumes and props. Historically, string bands performed mostly in military drill formations. Harrogate String Band's first prize-winning railroad tunes with Broadway-style dance in 1976 changed that. String band performances are now the most elaborate of the parade, outdone only by the Fancy Brigade's indoor performance. String bands include Fancy Brigades, the largest category with the largest crews. The Fancy Brigades march the southernmost portion of the parade route, before heading to the convention center for a ticketed show and judging. Until the late 1970s, the Fancy Brigades were simply larger presentations within the fancies. As the props grew larger, more cumbersome, and more vulnerable to wind, rain, and snow, the decision was made to move the brigades indoors. Fancy Brigades include